Welcome to the second video for the Introduction to Computer Applications video series. Now this chapter 1, Creating, Formatting and Editing a Word Document with a Picture, is found in the ebook. Once you would have downloaded it and navigate to chapter 1, you'll see that following through with the chapter, you would notice what exactly we are supposed to be creating. So this is a picture on page 3 in that chapter as to what it is that we're going to be creating once you are finished with this video. Now heading to the Office software and finding Microsoft Word, we're going to create the flyer that you just saw in the book. So here goes. Now, why use a flyer? Many persons might want to advertise a sale, promote a business, or publicize some kind of event, or convey some kind of message to a community. And you might want to create a flyer to hand it out in person, or you might even post it in a public place, libraries, schools, supermarkets, lampposts. You see them everywhere. So you're going to create your own flyer. In this flyer, for this chapter, we're trying to gain some public attention by advertising an adventure tour. This adventure tour is about a mountain trail, and persons interested might want to take an off-road vehicle to see some scenic views and rivers and streams and the like. So how do we get started? Begin by entering text. The headline for this presentation on this chapter is Adventure. And that's with an exclamation mark. Adventure. Looks simple enough, right? But here's a thing or two. What if you make a mistake? How do you fix it? Now, normally, most persons may go and, let's say I had an error here. Most persons would probably go and try to fix it by putting in the letter, the correct letter after. Go back in and try to fix the letter after the fact then. And backspace and delete keys are useful here. But what is the difference? Now, if I was to use my backspace key, it's going to delete the character going to the left. So this R, where my insertion point is, needs to go. So I'll hit my backspace key to remove that. But if I'm using the delete key, it is going to do the reverse. It's going to delete characters heading towards the right. So this E needs to go. I'll hit the delete key and it will take it out. So what's missing here? The N. I'll probably type it in. I suppose I have to put the E back in. Okay, it's spelled wrong still. What if I have to fix it outside of that? I can right click on the word and a suggested list comes up. And adventure, adventured, adventurer, and adventures is the suggestion. So I need the word adventure. And there, I automatically fixed it. So I either use my backspace key, my delete key, or I go right ahead and fix the error by right clicking on it. Now here's another useful tip. Might be annoying to some, but there's something called the formatting mark. And these do not display when you print, but they display in the document. And here's that button, a show hide button, and it's going to show up some fancy looking characters on the screen. Now it indicates to the typist or the person creating this document whenever they would have pressed the space bar, which would indicate by a little raised dot. That's every time you press space, you'll see one of those. Every time you press enter, you'll see one of these. That's the paragraph mark. And there might be one or two other characters that will show up on the screen, but I personally don't like them, so for the purpose of this video I'm going to remove them. Now let's enter a blank line, and enter key on your keyboard should do that for you. Now what if you can't see what's going on your screen too well? You should try to zoom in and out. Somewhere at the status bar is the zoom button, but I like to give a nifty trick here. Hold down the control key on your keyboard and roll your finger against your scroll button on your mouse, and zooming in and zooming out becomes a breeze. You can try this for any window that you have. Now, we're going to pause here just to talk about word wrap. What is word wrap? Well, the authors of this book thought it necessary to put in the fact that you don't need to press enter when you get to the end of a line. You just simply continue to type, and the software will automatically position the words to the next line if the first line is full. So the only reason you'd want to press the enter key is if you want to put in a blank line, to begin a new paragraph, to end a short line of text, or to move on to the next line, or maybe there's something on your screen that pops up and you want to respond. So here's how word wrap is going to help you as you type. So the next few lines are going to be put in, and it says, explore scenic trails with breathtaking views. As you travel through meadows, forests, streams, and mountains in an off-road vehicle. Okay, so yeah, I have 2 errors. I'm going to fix those. Nobody's perfect with the typing. So you can go ahead and fix those, just as how I mentioned earlier. Right click, look at the suggested, right click on the word, look at the suggested spelling, and make sure you choose the right one. Now there's something called a spelling and grammar checker, and it shows up at the bottom of your window in what's called your status bar. And if you look down here, I'm pointing right at it, it's the spelling and grammar check icon, and this thing works while you're typing. So right now I have a check mark, so it's telling me I have no proofing errors, I have no spelling errors, I don't have any error at all. But if it does pick up an error, for example, in the next line we're going to type, I'm going to press enter, self-guided, and suppose I spelled the word tours wrong, T-U-O-R-S, the software is going to flag the word and indicate to me that there's something wrong with it. So you notice the red wavy on the line, and if you look down at your status bar, you will see the X that says, hey, there's some kind of error that is found. So your spelling and grammar check icon that shows up in your status bar tells you that you may have errors in your document. Now, what's the difference between all these squiggly lines that are on the screen? How do I know what they mean? So the red wavy on the line that you're looking at now, and if you want to find this information, it's on page 9 of that particular chapter that I mentioned we're in now. So if you want to see for yourself and read it for yourself, go to page WD9 in the Word chapter 1 of the book. So a red wavy underline means that the flagged text is not in the Word's dictionary. Or maybe it's just a proper name, or is simply misspelled. So in our case, tours is misspelled. But what if you see a green one? There are green ones that show up. If you see a green squiggly line or wavy underline, then you might just have a incorrect grammatical error. Grammatic errors are the green ones. And you might see a blue one too. This might indicate that there is a contextual spelling error, such as misuse of homophones. There are words that pronounce the same but have different spellings and meanings. So those are the 3 wavy underlines that you might see. So go back into the book, check it out and see. So I'm going to fix this using the method I mentioned earlier, and we actually meant to say tours here. Now the sentence isn't finished. It continues to say available. We go down to the next line, and it says open March through October. And the next line says all vehicle and gear provided. The last line, which they call the signature line, says to book your adventure, call 555 8928, and you put an exclamation mark at the end. So folks, that's it for the typing. From here on in is formatting, formatting, formatting. Now there are two types of formatting that you might do. They are paragraph formatting, which means we might change the appearance of paragraphs. Some things might get bullets and other things might be centered. And character formatting deals with how the characters appear on the screen. So some things might get a bolding or a change of color, or maybe an italicizing. So let's do that now. Now, there are different ways to select a line of text, and we want to select the line adventure. Now take note of these. You normally probably would go ahead and click and drag through it. That is one way. Another way might be to use the shift key. Hold down the shift key. And notice my insertion point is at the start beside the A. And use the arrow key, still holding shift. Use the right arrow key to go across to select the line. That's two. Some might find that it's easier to hold the control key and click the line. Got that one? Hold the control key. Hold down control and click on the line. And the line, even though it's one word in it, adventure, is going to be selected. What if we tried it down here? Okay, so it's selected more than a line. I suppose this one is selecting a paragraph. Now, the other way that you might find useful is there's an arrow that points in a different direction than you normally would see an arrow pointing in. So look up here at the ribbon. Here's the normal looking pointer. It's pointing in the left direction. But if you point into your left margin, do you notice now that the mouse pointer points towards the right? This right pointing arrow, if you use it to select a line, is as easy as giving it one click. And that works the same down in the other lines. There's an alternative to using the shift key. I think it's holding the shift key and clicking at the end of the line. That should do it. Or similarly, I think holding the shift key and pressing the end key, as in END, the end key on your keyboard will do a similar thing. So there are also different ways to select a line, but regardless of which one you choose, you're going to center the line. So you can head up to the paragraph group. Here's the paragraph group, and click the center button to do that. Or some folks like shortcut keys. Here's the shortcut key for centering. Control and E. E as in elephant. Control and E will center the line. Now that's not the only thing we're doing to the line. We've selected it, yes. So let's change the size of the font. So font sizes. You go to the font group, and right now the font size is 11. So we're going to change that to something a little bigger. Because it's the title of the flyer, it needs to stand out. Here's the size that we're choosing. Size 72. Seems a little big, doesn't it? But that's the point. Now, let's pause a little and let's talk about font sizes again. Now, go back to that list and you'll notice that the increments are in twos in some cases, and then it makes a major jump after 48 and 36 and 48 and 72. So what if I need a size somewhere between 36 and 48? Can I get a size 50? Yes, you can. Here's what you'll do. You've got to type it in. And when you hit enter, size 50 is going to be given to you. Can I get bigger than 72? Yeah, sure. What if I put 100 in there? You think it's going to go? Just press enter. Yes, it does. Don't ask me what the limit is. I don't know. I've never tried to go past what I think would be a reasonable font size. Let's say 1,000. I don't know. You can try it and see how big it gets. But we're sticking with size 72 for this adventure title. Now the style of the font is going to change as well. Right now, the font style is Calibri body. We don't want it to be Calibri anymore. We want it to be Berlin Sans FB Demi. So there's this list of font styles. You can browse through them and see it's in alphabetical order. And since I said Berlin, I've got to go to section for B, Berlin Sans FB Demi. Now, alternative to that, you could have actually started typing the letter BER, and it should have, brought up the recommended font style based on the letters you typed. Okay, here's another thing we're going to do to adventure. We're going to change the case. What do you mean by the case? Right now we have the first letter is capitalized and the rest of it is common. What if I want all of it to be capital letters? Oh, no. I hope you don't go and do something like this and turn on your caps lock and then proceed. You won't be wrong in doing that, but let's save yourself some trouble. I'm going to highlight that line again. Notice here there's a button for changing the case. So when you click on it, here are some options. You have sentence case and lowercase and uppercase, which is what we want. Capitalize each word, toggle case, and I have two additional ones that you may or may not have. So let's click on uppercase. The entire word now switches without you having to do much effort into getting it into capital letters. We're not finished with adventure just yet. There's something called a text effect. Here's the text effect button. And you can apply all sorts of things, shadows and reflections and glows. We're going to choose this one. They have long names. This one is called Fill White, Outline Accent 1, Glow Accent 1. So I'm going to click on that one. Now, it's going to be hard to see, don't you think? So, in order to change how it's going to be viewed, we're going to place a shade behind the word adventure. What's a shade? The rectangular area that you see highlighted here, that's surrounding adventure, is going to have a color. And here is the button that we're going to use. It kind of looks like a bucket of paint. It's the shading button. And if you don't like green, here's the color they said to choose. Green accent 6, darker 25%. Here we go. Yeah, don't like it, do you? Well, we're going to stick with it. So that's it for adventure. Let's move on to the other text in the rest of the document. We're going to select the rest of the text only up until just before the last line or the signature line. So I'm going to use my right pointing arrow because I think it's easier, and select from the words explore all the way down to all vehicle and gear provided. What are we doing with those? The font size is going to change from 11 to 24. It's a little bigger. Let's do with the last line of text. To book your adventure, call 555-8928. We're going to center that line. We're going to come back to it a little later. Let's just do a little something here now. Bulleted list. A bulleted list is a series of paragraphs, each beginning with a bullet character. These 3 lines, self-guided tours available, open March through October, and all vehicle and gear provided need to be given bullets. So what we're looking for is a little dot that would start the beginning of these lines. So how do I get that? Okay, look in your paragraph group and you'll find the bullets button. Giving it a click and you get 3 black dots. Fair enough. But what if I don't want 3 black dots? Can I get something else? Sure you can. Let's go back to the same button but choose the arrow beside it. And notice, well, I have a bunch of other stuff here you may not have. I think the standard ones that came with it are these. Right? So you could have selected any one of these as the check marks as an alternative to the plain black dot. But let's go a step further. What if I don't want any of these at all? You can put any new bullet you wanted by going all the way down to define new bullet. Go to symbol, and I usually like to head to the category called wingdings. And in wingdings, there are a whole host of all kinds of different nice looking, scary looking, silly looking characters that you could choose from. So, you can play around with it. So let's say I chose let's go back up here. Let's say I chose the mouse. Let's say I chose the mouse. And I clicked on OK. And then I clicked on OK again. The mouse would have shown up in my document as a bullet character instead of the dots. Now, is that appropriate for my flyer? Not necessarily. So let's say I went back in, define a new bullet, and change that to something else. Maybe the flower would be a better choice. Let's say flower. Okay. Alright. After all, we're going to see meadows and forests, so flowers might be appropriate. Now, the black isn't really growing on me. How about you? Did you know you can change the color of the bullet? Okay, let's go back into the same button. Go back into define new bullet. But instead of going to symbol, go to font. And in font, you can indicate a color. Let's say I went, green flower would make sense. Let's say I went for a yellow flower or an orange flower. And when I click on OK, you would have changed the black flower to an orange flower. Take some time and try it out next time. So let's move on. Okay, to italicize text, there's a word in here, breathtaking, that needs to be italic. Breathtaking needs to be italic. Now to select a single word, you probably would have dragged through it, yes, but there's an easier way. Double clicking a word is going to select it, just it. And while we're on the double clicking, let's go back. Let's go back a little bit. I must have left this one out. Did you know that even in selecting a line of text, you can triple click it? Triple clicking, 1, 2, 3. And it's going to select the line. So add that to the ones that you saw earlier. Back to breathtaking. Double clicking the word breathtaking. And what does it mean to italicize text? Well, the text is going to appear with a leaned font. It's leaning slightly towards the right. While we're still working on breathtaking, they recommended that we change the color of the word so that it kind of sticks out, because people might pay more attention to it. And that's using the font color button. And we're choosing this color, orange accent 2, darker 25%. Okay, so the word breathtaking now sticks out at you. Now, what about this word? Well, I should say this line, the last line, the signature line. We forgot about it, but we're coming back to it now. We're going to change the size of the font for the signature line after you would have selected it to size 28. To size 28. And the color of the font to a similar orange color that you used earlier. Orange accent 2, darker 25%. Now let's get back to editing some of those words. So you did something to breathtaking. You made it italic and you made it orange. Now let's underline the phone number. So let's highlight the phone number, not the exclamation mark beside it. And the underline button is in your font group. Now there's some shortcuts to those. Control and U will give you an underline, and if you went back to doing the italicizing of the text, Control and I would have done that for you. Let's bold some text. The words off-road is when we bolded. So bolding text pretty much gives it a darker font or a darker shade. It's thicker, it's darker. Alright, so this is what your document looks like so far. There's more to go. We're going to be putting in a picture and a page border. But before we get to that, we're going to change the color scheme of the whole document. Color schemes. In Word, A document theme is identified by 12 complementary colors for text, background, accents, and links in documents. So there's a whole collection of color themes. We want to change up the color theme in a little way because there are different colors that represent different meanings. If you look at the top of page WD31 in your book, you'll notice that they give a little information as to what colors one should choose when creating documents, and they list the meanings associated with the colors. Check it out and you'll see. Now in our case, they want to use green because in the flyer we're trying to suggest growth, harmony, and blooming, and trust and stability, which are all conveyed by any shade of green and blue. So it's the green color scheme that we want to use. So how do I get that done? We've got to switch tabs. Go to the Design tab, and if you look at the Colors button, right now we've been using the Office theme all along. They said to simply go to green. Notice what's happening to your document. What was once orange is now green, and what was once green is now blue. So let's choose the green theme color. Now it's time for that picture. Where is the picture supposed to go? I'm going to press enter here beside Explore, and it is within this space just above the first paragraph here and just below the adventure title, and we're going to send to the insertion point. This is where the picture is going to go. Now you would have had to go to the eLearn site to locate your picture, and here's what it looks like. It's called Mountain Trail, and when you get to the Mountain Trail picture, it's a matter of, and sometimes this doesn't work, right clicking on the graphic, clicking copy image, head back to your Word document and attempt to paste it there. Okay, so mine didn't come in. So I got to do it the long way. What's the long way? Go back to the picture, right click, but this time click Save Image As. Now I'm going to store this somewhere easier to access. I'm just going to throw it on my desktop for now. Keep the same name, Mountain Trail, and head back to my Word document. The long way of inserting the graphic then is to go to the Insert tab, go to Pictures, locate, which in my case is on the desktop, locate the Mountain Trail graphic, and then click on Insert. And there is the Mountain Trail picture. That's the longer way. That's kind of small, don't you think? So we're going to resize it. Now here's a little thing about resizing. When you resize, you're either making the graphic larger or smaller. Now look at the graphic closely. There's some little squares around the edge. They have names. The squares around the edge do have names. Alright, so what are they? So when you select the graphic, it's surrounded by a selection rectangle that has the little squares around the edges, including this rotation handle as well. We're going to look at that shortly. And to use the resizing tool, it's a matter of pointing to, and you notice the double-edged, the double-headed arrow, pointing to, clicking and dragging to make the graphic a little bigger. The rotation tool is a matter of tilting. You notice you can tilt the graphic with the rotation tool. You can spin it upside down if you wanted to. Notice? So that's what it does for you. Alright, but only thing we wanted to do here was to resize it. We can enhance the graphic even more. We can enhance that graphic even more. There's a Picture Tools Format tab. Notice that once the picture is not selected, that tab is not there. But as soon as you click on that tab, the Picture Tools Format tab is going to show up. What are we doing here? We want to apply a picture style. The picture style is going to help to make the picture a little bit more visually appealing. So here's the style that they want us to choose. And notice there's a collection of them. And you're going to look for this one. is called drop shadow rectangle. Drop shadow rectangle. When you click on it, you can look behind the graphic and now you'll notice the shadow that's hanging on behind here. We're not finished yet. Here's something else to enhance the picture. We're going to apply a picture effect. Notice there's a picture effect button. And we're going to go to the category called glow. And we're going to point to and look at this one. They have long names. So this one is turquoise 5 PT glow accent color 6. So there's a little shade of blue going on behind there. It's kind of small. It's kind of hard to see. But it's there. Still on picture effects. We're going back in again. Same picture effects button. This time we're going to go to bevel. And the one they're going to choose is this one. It's called angle. And you'll notice it seems to be raised up off of the page. Angle. So now when you unselect that graphic, you'll notice the edges seem a little raised and it's dropped off to the sides, and that blue or turquoise, as the color suggests, is hanging on behind the border, and the shade is around that border. The last thing to do to this page or this document, and this is how it's looking right now, is to add a page border. We're going to enhance the page with a page border. What's a page border? It's just a little frame that goes around the border of the page and might just complement the contents of the flyer. So here goes. How do I get a page border in? Okay, let's go to the design tab. And here's the page borders button. That's one place to find it. You could also find it back on the home tab. And there's the borders button. So you have to use the arrow and go down to borders and shadings. It opens the same window. So we don't want a regular border. We want a page border. So we're switching to the next tab. This page border is going to be a simple line. I think this is the second dotted line border. The second dotted line border. And we're going to go a step further by adding some color to it. And it might be hard to see, but this is the one they chose. That's going according to the book here, right? We chose this color green. Well, it's this lime accent 2. Lime accent 2. Lighter 80%. And we're going to change the width or the thickness of the line from half of a point to 4.5 points. Now before we click OK and go out, take a look at the art borders. There are a variety of borders, nice little picture styles that can surround your page as well, but we're not choosing any of those. So I'm going to click on OK, and if you look closely enough, you will see that the border surrounds the page. Okay, so not bad at all. We're not quite finished yet. Here's some things we're going to describe for you. You might have to correct errors and revise your document. So there are different types of changes that are made to a document. Additions, like additional words and sentences or paragraphs. Deletions, sometimes text is incorrect and you don't need it anymore and you might need to take it out. Or modifications, you might have an error in the document and you might want to make a change or revise a word in the document. So while doing that, you may want to insert some text. So let me zoom back in here, but look at the first line. Explore scenic trails and breathtaking views. Now if we wanted to put in a word, like the word today, after the word trails, I could click beside the S at the end of trails, press the space bar and type T-O-D-A-Y. Well, let's see, I'm to have my caps lock on. Let's take that off. Today, T-O-D-A-Y. What happens to the text as you typed? it was simply pushed across to the right. Did you know that there are two modes of typing? Insert mode and overtype mode. So what we've been working in all along is the insert mode. We type, text gets pushed across to the right. Now let's say we were to put this document in the other mode. If you look down in your status bar, I have insert here. How did I get that there? Right click on your status bar and you'll notice insert overtype or overtype insert, depends on how it's phrased. And once you do that, the insert button is going to show up. I'm going to toggle or switch between the insert mode and the overtype mode. Notice the name changes. And when I type the word today in overtype mode, watch what's happening. Overtype mode has pretty much deleted as I typed text going across to the right. So I'm going to undo that and switch back to the insert mode so that when I do put in the word today, it does what I want it to do and pushes across the text. So the overtype mode is deleting text as you type. Now let's say I don't want this word today anymore. I'm going to delete it. I could have used backspace, but I'm going to highlight the word and hit delete. I don't really want it after all. Now what if I wanted to move text around? Moving text around. Well, we all know how to cut and paste, don't we? Let's check it out and see. Something here doesn't belong where we have it initially. This line, all vehicle and gear provided. I want it to be the second bullet and not the third. So using the cut and paste method, I would do what? I could go up to my clipboard group and click on cut. Then click beside the O in open. And then click on paste. It should shift the other one down to the next line. Fair enough. But there's another method. It's called dragging and dropping. The line is still selected, but when I point to it and I hold down my mouse button, my left mouse button, notice the mouse pointer now looks like it has a dotted rectangle hanging onto it. I'm going to drag my mouse up towards the start of the O in open, and when I release my mouse button, that line should now move to where I wanted it to be. So that's dragging and dropping. So the two methods you would have seen just now is cut and paste or drag and drop. Now, what if you make mistakes? At least there's the undo button. If you look up here at the quick access toolbar, there's undo. So let's say that you dropped the item in the wrong spot. You can use the undo button. Or let's say you change your mind. You can use the redo button. Now we've pretty much come to the end of the chapter. And this is what the document looks like now that we're through. I'll show you one last thing though. It's called read mode. You may want to switch your document to the reading view. What does that look like? Okay, let's check it out. Let's check it out and see. The read mode. Now, on the status bar, you should find the read mode view button. So let's click on read mode. And this is what read mode looks like. It hides the ribbon and other writing tools so that more content fits on the screen, and it's really intended to make it easier to read a document. So you can always scroll across the pages to see. Now within read mode, they do leave you with a little toolbar. Right? You can find text and you can search for information. And let's look at view. Did you know that you can change the color of the page to sepia, which is a little tinted? But for nighttime reading, you can actually switch it to inverse. Black background, white text. Well, let's switch it back though. None. So that's read mode. How do I get out of this? I can hit the escape key and it goes back to the normal view, the document window. So there you have it. After watching this video, you should be able to create this adventure flyer. So this is the end of Word Chapter 1, creating, formatting, and editing a Word document with a picture. Thanks for viewing.